All right, so I wanted to do another time lapse. This one I actually started as a just pen drawing. I started this to do in my spare time, and I never intended to record it. But for some reason, I just could not find the motivation to work on this in just casual drawing fashion. So I decided, you know what, let's just finish it up as a time lapse. And this style of patterning, I call it throw the spaghetti at the wall or whatever works. And this one does take a little more brain power than typical drawings. It's not like I'm following a specific pattern all the way through. I'm just kind of drawing wherever, and it's a balancing act trying to get dark and light with like complex and simple patterns, trying to get it to be interesting, but it's really something interesting. I originally started this by drawing lines to help divvy up the patterns and just give me sections to work in. I've found that in the past when I've done this style of pattern, doing that really helps just as a kicking off point. So I usually do that. Now, this style of pattern is very difficult in that it is very time consuming. All in all, this one probably took me an extra hour and a half, 2 hours as to the last time-lapse video I did, simply because the last one I could follow patterns through and touch things up as I go, and I did the entire one as a marker drawing. This one, part of the pattern was pen. You can't really tell in the video, but there is a slight tone difference. I believe the pen is slightly darker than the marker, which won't make a difference once I scan it and touch it up for the coloring book project this belongs to. Simply because I am going to increase the contrast, darken the colors, and all that fun stuff. This one I honestly had a lot of fun drawing, as I usually do with my artwork, and I was able to speed up some of the work using thicker pens, which I am really enjoying. And I will acknowledge that I recently published a how to draw abstract art, and I said I prefer using ballpoint pens to draw, and then immediately the next video I'm using markers. They kept smudging. No matter what brand of pen I use, they smudge like crazy now, or they don't write the way I like them. So I decided to give markers a try, and I'm getting really good results. So I'm going to keep using them until they die. This is the third drawing I've done with this particular set of markers, and they still have a good life in them. So this might just be the way to go. And you can see this style of drawing. I get to put every one of my quote unquote patterns. There's certain designs I like to include, like the squares, and those are different from the squares I've shown in my tutorial video. And that is because I have multiple types of square patterns I like to use. And of course, I'm always rotating the paper because my arm likes to move in ways that I don't know if this is a normal artist to want to rotate the page, but it's what I feel comfortable doing. If you try to draw this or try to draw like this and you can keep the page perfectly square or perfectly straight, fantastic. I can't do that. I need to be rotating because my hand feels more comfortable moving in one particular set of ways. And I had a lot of fun. I like how I was able to use different motifs throughout it. And of course, as always, I was playing RuneScape and watching TV while drawing because I can't just sit. I just can't sit and watch TV. I have to be doing something. And this style of video, even though it takes like 5 hours to draw or to film, it feels like only like a few minutes because I'm in the zone. I have the background noise. I'm not trying to do commentary for the whole 5 hours. So it's really good. And I can't wait to do more videos like this. I might end up just filming all my ink drawings from this point on like this. But for the most part, you can see how I kind of jump around the page. It's because I need to be bouncing around. I Roomba. It's like the drawing Roomba. I bounce around randomly, and that's completely okay. And one thing I tend to do with this style of pattern when I don't know what to add is I will like draw an outline around the shapes, and then I'll fill in that outline so it's like border black space. I do that quite a few times throughout this, and it is a really simple way to break up patterns and fill in space you don't know what to put patterns into without just having a ton of black space. So that is good. And I kind of like how they did the spirals there. They turned out to be kind of like weird eyes, which I kind of like. Kind of freaky, but also really elegant and abstract. I like how that turned out. And of course, another cut. I did not film this all in one go. I can only handle so much drawing in one sitting, and that is completely fine. I will probably never film one of these straight through, but who knows? Maybe someday. And I still bounce on the page, and I like just weird little shapes. I think this will make an excellent coloring page. And this pattern is great as is, black and white. And then it also works really nicely when you color invert it. My biggest thing is trying to make something that will work in both forms, how it was drawn in color invert, because I do that because since these drawings take so long and so many resources, I will have the best of both worlds. And part of it is some of these coloring pages work great in both forms, and I want to provide both forms. So typically for my coloring book projects, I will do 25 drawings, and these 25 drawings are compiled, and then I make the original version, which is the one you're seeing me draw now. And then I will go into I use GIMP. I will color invert the saturated and touched up drawing, so you get the best of both worlds. Some patterns, like if it's all just concentric lines, it kind of sucks as a color invert. I've learned that from my previous projects. So it's always trying to draw something that'll be interesting in both forms and actually distinguishable. And the pattern I'm doing right now, I'm sorry, I'm so not focused on this, is actually close to the original start of where my abstract drawing style came from. And it came from this because I was trying to draw Vera Bradley patterns off memory with colored pencils. And then I tried it again in ink and just kind of went with it. And it's developed over the years. I will be doing a tutorial on that pattern in the future. I don't know when. I know I want to do a tutorial this week. I'm probably going to be doing a completely different and newer pattern. One that I did include in this drawing, but I don't remember. It was pretty late on in the drawing, so I'll try to remember to point it out when we get to it. And you can see classic border fill in the center. It just fills in, it rounds out the drawing, and it makes some of the thought process behind it easier. And I love these flowing lines and shapes. I love rigid geometric patterns, and I love flowing designs and how you can combine sharp edges with smooth outlines with geometric shapes. It's combining elements of these drawings really gives it an interesting and unique feel. And I'm always trying to improve and get it. And here it is. I remembered, you guys. So this is a pattern, I call it the ripples. It kind of reminds me of In a Nutshell's video style. And it's just kind of like you're tearing slime apart. It's kind of goopy and weird. And I'd love to do a video going into detail about how I came up with that design and teach you guys how to draw like this. This one is really interesting. I've come up with a few ways to apply it, and I have an idea of what I want to do. And like how this is in the drawing is different from how I originally drew it. And that's because this I find more interesting to draw and more interesting to look at. And that's what I love about this style of drawing, where it is not a specific pattern all the way through. You're not following like a design. You're just doing whatever. It helps you come up with new ideas. A lot of my patterns were come up with in these kind of designs, and I actually tend to look back on drawings like this just because I'm trying to do unique stuff all the way through. So looking at previous designs might come up with some ideas for the new drawings, or for ones where I follow more patterns and all that fun stuff. And of course, I always love doing geometric shapes. Triangles tend to appear a lot in this style of drawing, I will admit. And I don't know why. I just like triangles, man. They're a strong shape. Very strong shape. And you can really tell how long this takes to draw. This footage you're seeing on the screen is 12 times speed from the original, so it really takes a long time. And I mean, I love drawing like this. It is such a really chill way to spend time. I feel like the way I feel when I draw like this, I feel like it's exactly the same as how other people feel when they're doing adult coloring. You know, you're just zen, you're zoned out, you're just going with the flow and enjoying the patterns. That's what I think is going on in my head. And I don't do a ton of adult coloring. I will color my patterns, especially when I'm doing covers for coloring books, or maybe making a print design. I will color them, and I have a few methods of coloring that I like to use. But I feel like drawing gives me it gives me that mental, just laid back. It's really nice. And this one I filmed over the course of like 3 or 4 days. It was really quite time consuming, but I really like the result. And I'm always trying to balance out dark and light, because if there's too much light in a coloring page, it's going to be boring. If there's too much dark, you're not going to have a ton of space to color. And with my method of doing light and dark contrast, you kind of have to have a happy medium, because then you'll have 2 coloring pages that have those problems. And I'm trying to create a fun, relaxing, and really unique coloring experience for people. So I always try to put as much energy and effort into a coloring page as possible. It's one of those things. And I mean, you can tell I'm running out of ideas for drawing patterns, since some of them are repeated. Like, I kind of repeated the goopy pattern, but instead of doing the blobs, I did sharp edges, which is something I've done a few times. And it's not quite a pattern, it's more of a modified pattern. And I'm always trying to come up with new ideas on how to add things. And you can tell my coloring page is, yeah, you can tell I'm covering ideas, because I'm just coloring areas in black. But after 5 hours of working on one single drawing, it is very easy to run out of ideas and just want it done. And the hard thing is, when you get to that point, take a break. Don't force it, because then you're gonna you have a higher chance of ruining your art piece. But I think I was able to follow through quite nicely on this one, and overall it was really nice and enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching this time lapse. If you like this content, consider checking out some of my other stuff. Please leave feedback. I'm always looking to improve my content. And if you feel so inclined, liking and subscribing is always welcome. Thank you so much for drawing with me today, and have a good one.